Hey guys, my name is xOctoManx and this is part 3 of my quest system tutorial. We will take care of the quest manager to get this one completed today, and maybe we are able to also complete the NPC itself, so the quest object, which can later on just handle around, for example, that exclamation mark, a question mark, and so on and so forth. But first we need to go over and add some more stuff into our quest manager script itself. So what we have is we could accept, give up, and complete quests. We could also add an item already. I showed you in the last part how we can access this one later on to pass over data. And today we want to make sure that we are able to check quests. And check quests is basically we are sending a request or a quest request, for example, from our quest object, and then we go over and see how many or which of all the quests from that particular quest giver are available for us, and return back this information for us as whatever we want. So maybe I go over and change this particular that quest request function later on and use bools instead. But for now I just use a simple void. Well, not that simple, but it's working pretty good. So what I do is I create a public, again as I said, of type void function, and this is going to be our quest request. And quest request needs something of type quest object. So we pass over the quest object, which is our NPC, our, I don't know, sign on the road, any book, anything you want. And this will be passed over directly from wherever we need that, well, basically from the quest object itself. And this is going to be this quest object. Just a name, nothing else. I don't know how I can call this. I can also say this is going to be our NPC quest object, for example. NPC quest object. It doesn't matter how you call it. So what we want to do is, at first we can store that in a private variable. So we have, we don't need to, but we have the possibility to do so. And maybe we don't do that. Well, let me just jump over to that. Maybe I don't need that. So what we do is, at first we have the connection directly from the quest request. Usually I would maybe store that NPC quest object in a private quest object, so we can have access for this one later on too, but I believe this could be troublesome. So I will skip that for a moment. And maybe we'll pass this over later on once again. So what I want to do is, I want to take the NPC's quest object IDs. So if NPC quest object available quest IDs .count, if that is going to be greater than 0. So if there is anything in the available quest IDs count or a list. What we want to do is we want to loop through the quest list and see what of those quests are currently for us available. So we create another for loop for this. So again, for int I is going to be 0, and while I is smaller than the quest list, quest list dot count. So we go through all quests, I++, so we increment I while we are doing so. And what are we doing when we are checking in there is we need a nested for loop for the NPC quest objects once again. So for every NPC quest object available quest ID, so if it has 20, we need to loop through quest list also 20 times. And that's what we need to take care of with a nested for loop. So we create a for loop inside another for loop. And this is called a nested for loop. But instead of int I, we're gonna take int j. So j is our currently looped through looped through a variable or integer variable. And while this is smaller than npc quest object dot available quest IDs dot count, so while this is smaller than that, then we want to increment j in this case. So in the first loop, we go through the first item in the quest list, but with that first item in the quest list, we go through the complete available quest IDs quest list. This way we can check all quest IDs per quest inside and see if anything is going to match inside. So when we have something which is matching, then what we want to do is we want to check for the IDs, of course, while we are going through. So if that's going to be a bit longer maybe, so if the quest list in square brackets I dot ID is going to be equal to one of that current one of that npc quest object dot available quest IDs in square brackets j, and any of those in the quest list I dot progress is going to be available, so it is equal to quest progress available, then we want to basically return true or do something. As I said, I might go over and change this later on a bit, but currently I know this is working pretty good. So what we do is we for now just pass over a debug line, debug.log, and we want to get the information for that, and later on we can, for example, accept the first quest as a test. So we can just call the accept quest function, so we have the possibility to test this out. So what we would do is we debug.log, and what we pass over is quest ID colon. So what we want to pass over is the npc game object dot available IDs on j dot plus, and then we have a space in there, and then plus quest list I dot progress. So what I do is I test all available IDs in the passed over quest object, and what I want to make sure is that I get something back, like the information of that particular ID. What is this particular ID? What is needs to show me in what progress that is, and that's what we are requesting currently. And I'm gonna debug or get a debug line for this, so I later on know, okay, I get that. I can pass in that information and get that information out. Later on, after this one, what I need to do is I pass over data to our QuestUI for later. So I go over and leave that here at the moment. And of course, we can, for example, accept a quest, which is basically this particular ID when we only have one. So this is just for testing. We can pass back, or actually call the accept quest function. So we say accept quest. This is basically later on what we do from the buttons. So this is just for testing, as I said before. So what we pass over is the npc quest dot available quest and square brackets j, since we are looping through that, and this is going to be a quest ID we are passing over, so we go over and accept that quest. And when we are accepting that quest, again we go through that, checking for the IDs, checking if it's available. once again and set this one to accepted, and also add that to the current quest list. So this is what we ended up in the last video with without all that testing. So I wanted to make sure that yeah, everything works today. So this is for checking for available quests, this particular WoW concept stuff in here. So what I also want to make sure is that after we are done with that, we want to check for active quests. In the same, we can do that in the same function, and that's what we are going to do. We go and do basically everything once again. So what we do is, for active quests, as we go and create another for loop for this. So for int I is going to be equal to 0. We can use I again, even in the same function, because I is closed over here, or not used at that point when the for loop is completely done. So we can reuse I in this case. So while I is smaller than, and now what we take is the NPC quest object dot receivable quest IDs list, so dot count in this case, and we increment I. And in here, again, we need another nested for loop, because again, we go and take that. I believe I have a, yeah, that's a bit wrong in here. That's a nested one. So let me create another one directly around that. So we create another for loop here, which is testing. Yeah, let me just, that's okay. I'm gonna take a J instead here once again. So this is for our NPC quest object, and here we start at 0 once again, and while I is smaller than our current quest list dot count. So instead of going to the active or to the master quest list, we go to our active quest list or current quest list. Whoops, typo. Again, we go and increment I, another typo in here with a big C, and we to do some brackets around that for loop. So we have again the nested for loop stuff as we have had done before, and in here we can also debug the whole thing and pass back later on everything, and also we can test stuff in here to complete the quest. So what we want to do is so if the current quest list item I again dot ID is going to be the same. So basically we do all the same stuff as we have done in here. It's going to be the same as the NPC quest object dot the NPC quest object dot receivable quest IDs dot J, and the progress of the current quest list. So current quest list and square brackets I dot progress. It's going to be the same, or is going to be equal to accepted, or so 2 times the pipe, or it is going to be completed. So the current quest list, again item I dot progress, is going to be equal to quest progress dot completed or complete. Then we want to do something, and of course we want to debug all that stuff in here. So we're gonna create a pair of brackets once again. I hope you can see all of that. So again, if the current quest lists are of the same ID is matching with any of the receivable IDs, and the quest progress is going to be accepted, or or it is going to be the same as a quest progress complete. So any of those states, then we can pass over something like a boolean, for example. Yeah, there is something active or running actually. So this is what we do again later on with the QuestUI So the QuestUI later on needs to know what he has to show us, and he is reading out all the data directly from the QuestManager, of course. And what we can test in here again is, at first we're gonna go over and pass another debug line, so debug.log. Basically we could take the same as we have done before, so the quest ID of whatever. In this case we say plus the NPC quest object dot receivable quest IDs in square brackets J plus and we can say is whatever it is completed, it is accepted, it is whatever. So current quest list dot I dot progress current quest list I dot progress. Why isn't that working? Oh, I forgot the plus in here. So plus current quest list I dot progress. There we go. Don't forget to end the line. And now we could we'll get that one back. And also, if it's completed in this case, we could say we test this one against the completed state only, and we could just call the completed quest. So we could give this one back with that particular quest ID, so the receivable quest ID. This would look like, let's see, complete quest, and now we pass over the ID. It's going to be the NPC quest object dot receivable quest IDs and square brackets J. So again, this is going to be of type ID or an integer later on, so we can call complete quest, and complete quest would go through that and check if the quest is already completed, so 100% sure it is, and if it's not, then it's not going to do anything, but if it is, then it will just complete the quest and make it done. Yeah, and that's what we need to check from our UI later on when we are enabling basically or when we are talking to our NPC. Before we show anything, we want to make sure that there is something to show. Otherwise, we don't need to, and we don't need to show the quest panel, for example. Also, what we can create later on is we can check, for example, for particular quests. And if there is any particular quest available, then we can take our quest object and we check, or we can pass over something like that, or return something, and we will, for example, show an exclamation mark, a question mark, or I don't know, any talking bubble, whatever icon you want, directly over the NPC, so it will get our notice. Aha, okay, there's something, and that's what we are going to do right now. This will be also another pack of bools. I'm gonna, I don't know, I'm gonna call this bools 2. Since they are a bit different, but basically everything is about the same. But what we do is, instead of passing over the quest ID, we pass over the complete quest object as we have done in here. Again, you can do that also everything in the UI manager and loop through all of them, and then go over and take a lot of requests in here, so the guys know what's going to happen, or the quest object needs to know or will know what state is in, or you pass over the complete quest object and we can compare that in one function with one loop. Basically it is going to work in both ways. So what we have, and here we create another public bool, and what we want to do is we want to check for available quests. So we call this one check for, I don't know, for check available quests, maybe, yeah. Available quests. Again, we might be able to use that bools because we can loop through that also. But we need to do that. It doesn't really matter how we do that. We can use that bools from that function, I believe. Maybe we go do that, because we get something in return anyways. And what we also do is, with checking for a specific available quest, we are looping through that whole stuff anyways. So again, however I'm going to do that, it is working in either way. So what we take at first is a quest object. So the quest object is going to be again our NPC. What did I call that? Quest object. Okay. Quest object. So, and again, we loop through everything once again and check against everything we have in our quest list available for this particular part. Again, we have one where we are passing only one available quest, and we can basically take that and give, and we will get back any bool from them and pass that bool back from another point. Or we do it another complete another way. But since it's since this is going to be another nested for loop stuff, we might go over and just do it the usual way. Again, we can reuse, I believe we could be able to reuse all that bools we already have for this. You can later on decide if you want to do that or not. I'm not sure what's taking more, I don't know, memory or whatever, or what's taking longer, but basically both functions or all that functions are doing the same. So questlist.count, and we increment I once again, then we create our nested for loop again for our available quest IDs of that particular quest object. So we say for int, in this case j, oh I forgot the brackets, so it's going to be equal to 0, and while j is smaller than the npc quest object dot available quest IDs dot count, we increment j, so j plus plus. Okay. And in here we request, or basically check back everything here and there. And once again, let me see, maybe we could, oh no, we just need to do that. It doesn't really matter. So what we request is if the quest list I is going to be, or is going to have any ID of the NPC quest object and square bracket dot available quest IDs in square brackets j, and one of that quest progresses, and quest list I dot progress is going to be the same as the quest progress dot available. Since we are checking for available quests, what we can do is at that point we can return true. Again, I believe we could take that quest and pass over that the whole time, but yeah, it doesn't really matter actually. I believe this would be easier. I don't know. It doesn't really matter really. So what we want to do is we want to return true when this is the case, and if we are not true, so outside the second for loop, and here we didn't return anything at that point, then we want to return false. And we're gonna over and save that. What I go over is I created two more functions, two more bools, which are basically doing the same but checking other states. So this is going to be, we are checking for accepted ones, accepted quests, and as this is going to be of course of type not available but accepted, basically doing all the same. But we don't call them the whole time. So I believe that's the easiest and most understandable one. So we check for accepted ones, and at the very least we want to check for completed ones. So if there is any completed one, it doesn't really matter how many, it's just one needs to be at least completed, for example, and will return true. Then we change later on the marker or the we change everything for this. Oh, but I see something is a bit different. I forgot. Let's see. We are checking for available quests. So we take in the available quest ID. But if we have taken one already, then we need to make sure that we are checking the receivable quest IDs in this case. And also in here it needs to be receivable quest IDs. We are in the check accepted one. And of course we need to do the same in the completed quest one, since they are received already. And if we have, as an NPC, have received or can receive that particular ID, then we want to make sure that we show the correct marker over our head or wherever, or any sign what we need or what we need for this. Oh, I see, I forgot something in our complete quest function. QuestManager, quest, complete quest. What we want to do is, of course, when we have completed our quest, we want to, I'm gonna go over into that maybe later on. We wanna, of course, make sure that we get a reward at that point. Currently I'm not able to get any rewards, since I don't have any money, any stuff, any EXP thingies in my turn-based battle system over stuff in here. What I want to do is, when I'm completing that quest and everything is cool for this particular quest, I want to check for a chain quest. So if there's any other ID I can unlock with the currently with the currently completed quest, for example, I will go over and create another function for this. So I have everything kind of clean. This does not need to be public, it's just of type void. You can, check chain quest. This is just of type void, not public. We don't go and access this from outside, it will be just inside. You can also make this one private if you like to. But basically in C# everything is private when you are not saying it is not. So I call this function check chain quest. What do we pass over is, of course, an integer, and call this one quest ID once again. So we want to go and look if a specific ID has a chain quest or another quest given, but when it's not 0. So when next quest in our quest itself, when this one is going to be 0, then this will not work, or this will just be ignored, basically. Okay, so what we do is we need a temporary variable. I call this just num. I could also name this ID, it doesn't really matter. So for me it's just num. Or let's just call this one temp ID. That might look cool. We create a new for loop for this. So for int I is going to be equal to 0, and while I again is smaller than the quest list dot count. We increment I once again. We're gonna go through that, and what we want to check is if the quest list and square brackets I dot ID is going to be the same as the passed over quest ID, and this particular quest in that part, or in that position, so quest is ID dot next quest is going to be greater than 0. So if there is any chain quest available, for example, or actually something is in there, then what I want to do is I want to set num no, in this case it is temp ID, I'm sorry. So temp ID is going to be equal to the next quest ID. So the quest list and square brackets I dot ID. So we set this temporary variable to the ID, no, not the ID, that's wrong, to the next quest, of course. So we store that in temp ID, and what we can do after that for loop, we can check if num is bigger than 0. So, or in this case, if temp is bigger than 0, or temp ID. If this is greater than 0, then we want to unlock the next quest, which has that particular ID. So what we again need to do is we need to call another or create another for loop for this. We need to walk through or go through the whole quest list once again. No, so I is going to be equal to 0, and while I is smaller than the quest list once again, oh no, quest list.count, we increment I like this, and inside of that we check if the quest list, we're basically doing the same, if the quest list and square brackets I dot ID is going to match the temp ID, oops, and the quest list item I dot progress is the same as quest progress not available. So this needs to be sure that we have a not available state at this point. What we want to do is we want to set this particular quest, of course, to be available. So quest list in square brackets I dot, and again now we change the progress is going to be equal to the quest progress available. So we unlock the next quest if it is a chain quest. And what we also want to do is in the complete quest function, we want to call the next chain quest function directly over here. And in brackets, we pass over the quest ID we just got from the button, for example, we have pressed when we actually have pressed that. And now we have can complete quests, check for chain quests, and we can also check for available quest, accepted quests, and completed quest. Okay, so now it seems we are almost done with the complete quest manager. That looks pretty good. Gonna close a bit here and there. Yeah, that looks fine for now. So we have almost everything we need for our user interface too. But let's go into our quest object and fill in some more data for this, so we can actually have some question marks and exclamation marks, and let's try to trigger one of that quests, or the first quest in this case, because we are doing a request in our quest manager quest request. We can request that, and we can actually accept the quest when we are looping through that. And that's what I want to do and test right now. We will go over and trigger this from that update. Later on we will call again the the quest manager. But for now, let's head back for just a second into Unity and create something for our NPC once we are done with, I believe I just have forgotten another marker there or anything, I don't know. Let me check what is. Of course, once again, I forgot an equal sign in here, so I'm gonna save that. No idea how often that happened. Oh yeah, another time in here. Okay, since we have copied the error over, that's why. Okay, so we have to make this everywhere 2 equal signs when we are comparing stuff with other things. Oh, there we go. So all errors are gone. So I have selected my NPC in here. I don't know why the camera is so ugly today. But what we do is we create a canvas. So we go to UI, canvas, and this canvas needs to be a world space, and I decrease the size to 1 by 1, and I to the position to 0 to 0, and the width and height to 1. Also, what you can see, it is directly inside the cube right now. So I go over and take the position of 1 in the y-axis. As you can see here, a bit hard to see. Hopefully you can see that that's the small canvas we are using for our exclamation and question marks. So we have the possibility to access that, and we have the possibility to enable and disable that on whenever we need to, or we pass over any information or empty sprites or whatever. It doesn't really matter. I will show you one way. You can do it either way or any way you like. So this is going to be world space. An event camera, maybe you want to do that later on. Also, I don't go over right now and make this one looking to the camera the whole time. So just take it as it is, and maybe we'll go over into that later on. Okay, so we have the canvas. So what I need on that canvas is, of course, an image. So I say UI image, and I need to reduce the size from width 100 to 1 and 1. So this will just be my image. And what I also have is a texture for this. So let me import this pretty quick. This is just a small quest marker PNG file. What you can see is just white, so I change this one to sprite 2D and it's going to be multiple. I go to the sprite editor, don't forget to apply the changes. As you can see, it's a exclamation mark and a question mark. What I do is I just create 2 of that thingies in here, that areas, so I can take that question mark and that exclamation mark and use them. So I go and apply the changes, and so I have that particular image in here, and I can, for example, take quest marker 1. And what I want to also want to make sure is that I preserve the aspect ratio. So with that, as you can see, we have the exclamation mark on that. You can also leave this one empty. It doesn't really matter. It gets filled and changed later on anyways. So, but what we also can do with that is we can, for example, tint that to be red, white, black, yellow, or whatever you like, for whatever the colors for your systems are. Currently I leave this white since I want to, will change the script wise later on anyways. And what we do is we create a new function into our quest object. And this function will be called setQuestMarker. So it's going to be public. I believe it needs to be. Oh, well, no, it doesn't. It's just private. So it's a void setQuestMarker. We don't need to pass in any values, but we want to request, of course, if there is any quest we can set our marker at. So the first one is we want to get infos from the quest manager. So what we say is QuestManager, .QuestManager. And now what we want to check is we want to check for completed quest. Check completed quests, and what we want to pass in is this game object, or this quest object. Basically, it's not the game object, it's a quest object. So we pass over this, and when we are doing so, we will get something in return. And what we also want to do is we want to when we are getting something in return, then this will automatically do something. So if this is going to return true in any way, then we will do everything what's inside here. And what's inside is, at first we need to create a new game object, of course, for our quest marker. So it's going to be public game object. And this is going to be our quest marker. So the quest marker will basically be the canvas. Oh, let me just type it with a small q. This will be our canvas, Then we want to access the image on the canvas. And since we need or want to take and use images, we also need to make sure that we're using the namespace UnityEngine.ui. .ui. So we have access to image components and can make sure of, or can make use of it. I call this one just the image. So we have access to the image itself. And what we also have is our two sprites, which we want to change depending on what the state of the quest is. So I call this one quest available sprite. Call it whatever you want, or just available sprite. And another public one, quest sprite. This is going to be our quest completed sprite, or something like that. Or quest, no, not completed, quest receivable sprite. Okay, so now we can pass that data into that. Let me just save this one pretty quick and go into our NPC character in here. And we should have, yeah, there's our quest marker, which will be the canvas. So we pass this one over. The image is the underlying image in here. And now, since we have completed our quest marker in here, so we can take the quest marker 0 and quest marker 1. This is an exclamation mark. I could also go over and rename them. What I do is I drag them into this. So the available one is with the exclamation mark, and the receivable is the question mark. So we have that in there too. So what we want to make sure is that we are setting our quest marker to be active. So quest marker dot set active, which is, oh no, not QuestManager, quest marker dot set active. Why is that so? Oh, quest marker with a small q dot set active to be true. So we set our canvas to be true so we can see it or actually work with that. The next thing I want to make sure is that the image sprite is going to be the receivable sprite. So the image.sprite is going to be equal to the receivable sprite, a quest receivable sprite. And also I can change the color, so the image.color is going to be equal to color.yellow. You can use any color you want, and then we are done with that. So why did I do that at first? We need to make some kind of decision what's more important for the NPC, no, for the player. So what do you want to see as at first? You want to see at first if there's any completed quest, so he gets a question mark for this, and then he can act easier or earlier. So what we also want to do is the next one. So else if, so if this is not the case, but we have more, we have instead of that, let me just copy this part over here. I don't need to type this once again. So if that is going to be not a completed quest, but a available quest, and we again pass over this object, then what we do is again we want to set the quest marker to be active. And the sprite is going to be, let me just copy that part in here over too. This quest marker is going to be active. This the sprite is going to be the quest available sprite. And the color is also maybe yellow, I don't know. We can change that later on if we want to. And we also have another else if statement. Copy the whole line or the whole piece here. And we check for accepted quests. Or we also want to make sure that this is going to be true, and the this one is going to be the quest receivable sprite, I believe. Oh yeah, it looks okay. But I want to change the color to gray, for example. So what we see is, okay, he has something active, but it's not completed right now. So I change the color to gray. So I can also go in and use color 32 for this and decrease, for example, just the alpha. Okay, and we have also another else statement. which is just saying that we are disabling the quest marker. So quest marker.setActive is going to be false. We could also go over and empty the sprite, so it would be the same, or would be active the whole time. Okay, and when are we calling that setMarker function? Of course, at first in the very start. So when it's starting, it's requesting if there's any quest for us available. So when we are entering a town, when we are leaving a town, when we are doing whatever we need to do. And of course, later on, the UI manager will maybe... No, not yet. Yeah, and later on, we need to take care of this set quest marker depending on what the current state is. So, and the NPC character will be, will just do all of that for us. We just go over and, yeah, run into it. And basically what we could do is, why is that so laggy here? What we also could do is, to just trigger that is in our quest object. We can call QuestManager.QuestManager.check for quest request. And what we want to pass over is, of course, this this game object. And when we are going close, we are colliding with that guy, we should get at least one debug line, and we should also accept that particular quest. So let me open the quest manager so we see this one better. So as you can see, it has changed to yellow. We can now go over to this guy, press space, or not. Why can't I press space? Oh, okay. I need to, I believe I need to set my hero character to be player trigger. Player tag, I mean. So hero character, yeah, it's untagged, so it needs to be player. And now let's go over and test this one out once again. So I go over here, press space, and what you can see, quest ID is available. Automatically it become accepted since we made it so that it is going to be accepted. And in our quest manager, we can also see, hey, here in the current quest list, we have Hello World as our quest. It is in state accepted. It's same as the quest ID, the same as the normal quest thing. And what we can do now is when we are leaving the town, we should be able to update this one. As you can see, now it's completed since we have entered the trigger. We were just creating this in the last video. And we can go back into the town, and now, as you can see, it is automatically saying, hey, you have that completed. It's a question mark, and we can talk to this guy once again. The quest ID is complete. And now once, since I have pressed space once again, I checked everything once again. And in here you can see the quest list is now empty and the progress is done. And that's pretty cool. I don't know why always I am sticking into the ground. I need to fiddle around that. When I now go and enter or re-enter again, then this marker is going to be away. So later on we go over and update the question mark and the exclamation mark and all the other things. And of course we create UI to make everything work. But yeah, since we have another 50 minutes completed in here, I will finish end the video at this particular point. And in the next part we go over and I believe we create UI for our complete or almost complete quest system. So see you in the next part. Thanks for watching and bye bye. Thanks for watching the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumbs this video up if you like it and feel free to become my patron or donate by using PayPal to support me and my channel in the future. All links will be below in the description. See you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.